Fifth Child, written and read by Frank Blissett. They called themselves 9 Pine Farms, named after the 9 giant trees that had been left standing as a little woodlot in the middle of their hayfield. Rebecca figured they were left as shade for livestock, while Joshua argued that the original homesteaders simply could not bring themselves to remove all of the old forest. Regardless, Rebecca hardly felt right calling themselves a farm. In truth, they made only a little cash off their roadside stand. Most all of what they produced went into their pantry and their hayloft. The animals were mostly pets, with a couple dozen meat chickens the exception. Their actual money came from Joshua's winter snow plowing jobs and summer construction work, and from Rebecca's income as a paraprofessional at the area's consolidated school. The past 5 years, Rebecca and Joshua had managed to resurrect the old farm and saved the pasture from the willows and tag alders that were starting to overrun it. It was a life separate in every meaningful way from the suburban world she grew up in. Little was provided on demand, and even cell phone coverage was hit and miss. Cable had not yet been run down their road, but a recent upgrade to DSL by the phone company allowed them to stay as connected as they wanted. She was on her lunch break one wintry Friday when her phone rang. Only 2 people would call her at work: Joshua with a problem that had no solution, or her mother with a solution that had no problem. This time it was the latter. Rebecca briefly considered letting the call go to voicemail. However, she knew that she would forget to call back after work, and with the long President's Day weekend upon them, it wouldn't be till Tuesday before she would be able to check her messages again. The thought sent a small shiver of guilt through her. She answered the call. "Hi, Mom." "Hi, sweetie. So how are you and your boyfriend doing out in the wilderness?" Her mother never called Joshua by name. That had not been the case with Rebecca's high school crushes or college romances. In a backwards way, it was a compliment, though. Her mother was saying, "I want him to be your husband, and will not show him full respect till he is." Yet it still stung. "Fine. We're both healthy, and the animals are all hunkered down for the winter." "And how are things going at the school?" "Fine. The staff are still nice, and the students have been mostly respectful." "You know, I was looking around a little, and I think you could get a teaching degree without too much trouble. Your community college there even has classes." The local college was still an hour's drive away, and Rebecca knew that her mother was aware of that fact. "Now, Mother, I'm happy where I am. I don't want to be a teacher." "But you might someday. It wouldn't hurt to take some classes." Rebecca sighed, and her mother backtracked. "But so long as you're happy and healthy and content, I guess that's what really matters, doesn't it?" "So how's Dad doing?" It was time to change the subject. "Oh, he's doing great. He's gotten back into swimming and is getting back to his old self. But the reason I called was to ask if you could visit for Passover this year. I know you're not froom or anything. I don't think I'd be able to make it. I don't know if I can take time off work." But we'd love to see you again, and your school has the whole week off for spring break." Her mother had already checked, of course. "I'll talk about it with Joshua." "Please do. I mean, your father's fine right now, but you never know what the future will bring us. And there are your cousins' spouses and children you haven't met yet, and I'm sure it'll be nice for you to visit the big city again." "Okay, we'll see. Well, I've got to get back to work now." "Oh, it's too bad you couldn't talk long. It'll be great to see you again." "Thanks for thinking of me. Bye, Mom. Love you." Rebecca did not mention the conversation to Joshua for several days, till he asked how her family was doing. As was usual, he put the decision off on her, but added that it would be nice for her to visit them. So she found herself, 2 months later, in her childhood home, holding a glass of wine as she leaned left in her father's old easy-chair. Around her were family she had not seen in years. Maybe she had talked to them a couple times on the phone, and certainly kept up with their lives on social media, but it surprised her to see how they had aged. Her cousin Jake, in particular, had been a scrawny party boy when she last saw him. But now he was married, with a toddler, a respectable job, and a little softness all around. And tonight he was leading the Seder. His voice was melodic and sure as he recited the Kaddish. A little pang of melancholy spread through her as she remembered her father giving the blessings at the last Seder she attended. But she could see the pride in her father's eyes as he watched his nephew embrace a new role in the family. And Rebecca felt some of that pride, too, behind the moment of sadness. Her mind turned to Joshua. She didn't like leaving all the household chores to him for several days. He worked so hard. They both did, but he was the one who would work in sub-zero weather before dawn, clearing driveways and parking lots for the early risers. He hadn't once leaned left in all the years she had known him. Rebecca wished she could deliver him from his toil. The rhythm of the Kaddish had stuck in her thoughts, and those thoughts returned to her father reciting the blessing, and when she was quite young, her father's uncle leading the Seder. They both had the same tender, loving smile. Her memories then turned to long-past relatives she had almost forgotten, their names nearly lost. But more so, she recalled the stories, the ancient lore of great miracles, as well as her family's personal tales of perseverance. And she and Josh were writing their own tale, one which had them pulling ticks in the summer and trudging through snowbanks in the winter. They worked long, hard hours to keep hard times from crossing their threshold, but were rewarded with moments of peace deeper than any she had experienced in the suburban neighborhood in which she was raised. Rebecca knew in that moment that she would not be returning the next year, or the year after that. She knew that her next visit would likely be to bury her father. But she was at peace with that. She would return to Josh with his tired back and sore feet, to the old barn that would need a new roof soon, to the electric fence that needed new posts, surrounding an old pasture that needed to be reseeded, and to that little copse of pines in the hayfield that cast their dark shadows at dawn and burned a fiery red at dusk. That was Fifth Child, written and read by Frank Blissett.